Let me put you on game. Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a f*** what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. Today, I'm super excited. We've got a very special guest with us. He is a local serial entrepreneur, Mr. Zac Martin. I'm excited to kind of dive into your story. You've got a cool story. You've been in multiple different businesses here locally. So I'm kind of excited to hear, your what you've learned going through that process. So what was your first stint in business?
So the first stint in business, my dad wouldn't let me do, but I contacted all the suppliers and outlined how to do a paintball field. I even had insurance quotes when I was 14. But then I even had a lease figured out with the neighbor.
Really?
But then my dad said no. So
He said, so
I
you
couldn't do the paintball field.
You were planning, was that here locally?
No,
Did you grow up here?
I grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
So
cool.
It was just some land somebody had adjacent to our property. And I was like, I could do paintball on the weekends. And then it didn't work out. So go to high school. My senior year, I lived at a buddy's house in Colorado. So I'd moved away from where my family was.
Okay.
And I would buy cars, fix them, and sell them online.
Okay.
And that went really well.
Really?
So I learned how to work on cars because I had to make a living.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty fun, dealing with all the different parts of that all the way through.
Have you always liked sales?
Yeah. I like sales as far as like talking to one person and connecting and interacting with them and solving their problem.
Got it.
So I really enjoy that whole process.
Yeah.
A lot. Just like talking to people.
Yeah.
Not so much large groups or big presentations quite as much.
Like trying to sell, bigger products and you're more of, if you've got a problem and I can help you with a solution, I'll sell that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I did do summer sales. I sold alarms for a couple summers.
Okay.
And that went really well. But I didn't enjoy the intrusion part as much. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot through that. And then I started an alarm company with a buddy of mine. And then we grew it. But then when Amy got pregnant, I always knew I was going to end up in real estate. Yeah. Where my dad's a broker. His dad was a broker. Just my other uncle went way off and he was a contractor.
Okay.
That was just everything we did, what we knew. And so when Amy got pregnant, I went and got my real estate license and we transitioned to that and moved to Utah.
Okay. From Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay. How old were you at that point?
When would that have been? 12? Like 23?
Okay. It's pretty young. So you were already starting like that alarm company when you were like in your early 20s, 2021. Okay. Then you make the transition to real estate. So you got a pretty deep history with real estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually took the classes and passed the test for Tennessee when I was 18.
Wow.
But then I don't know. I just didn't want to do it yet.
Yeah.
So I just kind of let that die. And then.
Do you think it was because your family was in it that you didn't want to jump right
No,
in?
it was because we were in Tennessee. I didn't know a crazy amount of people. I was 18, summer sales sounded more fun. Yeah. So I went and did that stuff. And then, but I knew that I would come back around to it. Yeah. And I already had a lot of the base knowledge. So taking the tests and classes was I already understood all the lingo. So it's really easy.
Yeah. So your first year in real estate, how did you do? You were in Utah?
25 houses.
Okay. Which is really good for a first year in real estate. Were you solo or were you part of the team?
I was on my dad's team.
Okay.
So he had moved to Utah from Tennessee. And so I had moved from Colorado there and worked on his team for a year. And it went pretty good. That was what year would that have been? It was 2009.
Okay.
I want to say, because I did a lot of short sales.
I was going to say that was probably, not the best market.
Well, the rates were great. So, prices were coming down. So it was hard for sellers, but buyers, it was a wonderful time to be an agent. And we were able to connect with a lot of people that were coming in and going out. And just as the market was flowing, we were catching a lot of it. Got people into some houses that are like, they get paid so little for those. Like my grandma, that was about the same time we got her a house in Clinton, Utah. And she paid something like $40,000 for it. And then she did a huge remodel. It's a small house. But, so she was $65,000 into a house that's now $300,000.
So nuts.
So it was people talk about 2008 and 2009 and even into 2010, how it was just, it was rough and the market crashed. It's like, yeah, but some people really won through that.
Oh yeah.
That's
my parents bought a lot of houses in Phoenix in 2012, and you could pick up condos for 50 grand.
Wow.
And like, oh yeah. And so they made off like bandits, which that's been my, like the most interesting thing for me is like, they've had jobs at the INL here in town, making a decent salary. 90% of their wealth though has all come from the real estate purchases that they've made over the last 10 to 20 years. And so that's what's like, it's not necessarily so much about your active income with your salary and stuff, but what are you doing with that active income? They were really good at just saving, and making sure they had cash to purchase opportunities with real estate when the opportunity came. And so that's where my fascination with real estate began, was just kind of watching that journey for them. But going into like, when did you guys move to Idaho?
So we moved here in 2016.
Okay. So you were in Utah for 7, 8 years?
Well, I moved from there back to Colorado and worked for a company called 8Z Real Estate.
Okay.
Loved it. That's everything I did in real estate after that moment was modeled after them.
Okay.
They were just the best company to work with.
What kind of separated them from the other ones that you'd been with?
They did more for their agents. So the split sucked. It was 60-40.
Okay.
And it didn't change. Like as you sold more, there wasn't a crazy arc. Like you could get up a little bit, but you had to hit like 10 million in sales to even get the needle to move.
Okay.
But they did so much little stuff to help you. Mm-hmm. So have you done ninja selling?
Yeah.
That course?
You actually, I haven't done the course, but you gave me that book. Like
I've
years
given
ago.
out so many of those books over the years. So ninja selling is my absolute favorite way to do real estate.
Okay.
And so Larry is the one that wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
He's good buddies with the founder of
that brokerage
8Z. So he founded one called The Group.
Mm.
I'm very creative, right?
Yeah.
So he founded one called The Group out of Fort Collins, and this one's based out of Denver, but there was tons of crossover and collaborations between the two brands. And so they had a bunch of systems that internet leads.
Yep.
And then they did get to where they were doing a bunch of internet leads, but it was really raw leads you were scrubbing. You know?
Yeah.
But then they hired ISAs and really did a good job of getting just the first contact and handing it over and then staying out of the way for the middle part.
Okay.
They just really hit it on the head.
Yeah.
You heard of boomerang cards?
Uh-huh.
They didn't have them available here a few years ago, but it's you sign up and everyone in your sphere gets a coupon once a month to a local restaurant.
Okay.
And the coupons have to be free something.
Got it.
So it was like free lunch at this restaurant that just opened or whatever.
Okay.
So they set up so many little things like that just helped you
stay in front of your sphere.
And it was awesome. And then just they had a good attitude. Mm-hmm. Their annual convention, you actually learned. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just a bunch of hoorah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been to those meetings where you're like, this is a waste of all 4,000 people here's time.
Yeah.
There's no information being exchanged.
Yep.
But really like ninja selling. And so our second daughter has TSC2, which came from me, which all my siblings have, and came from, we're pretty sure, my mom.
What is that?
It's a genetic disease where your second set of genetic code is kind of off.
Okay.
And it can cause all sorts of things tied to crazy amounts of issues. But none of our family ever realized because we're all pretty high functioning and haven't had it affect us.
Yeah.
But in utero, they found rhabdomyomas, which are more or less tumors, in her heart. And so we're like, they said there was like an 80% chance that she was going to need to be with us her whole life. Wow. They even tried to push us for one doctor tried to push for us to have an abortion. And the other doctor's like, what are you talking about? You're an idiot. So that was kind of a scary moment. But then we're like, okay, if we're going to have a kid with special needs, let's go be closer to family. Let's really figure it out. Read a bunch of books. Then she came out and she's born in Colorado still at Children's Hospital. And we were ready to be at the hospital for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. They sent us home in 18 hours.
Really?
Well, my other kids, we didn't even go home in 18 hours. I was like, it was 3 days or whatever the normal amount is. But it's been perfectly normal ever since.
Really?
Yep.
That's so cool.
The tumors went away, which they said they would after, it takes till about age 7.
Okay.
But now she's perfectly fine. She's
Really?
gifted and talented.
Wow.
I mean, she's brilliant.
No problems why those were still there, like growing up? Really?
Nope.
That's so cool.
So, yeah. And so that's what pushed us to come here. And then I called a bunch of the brokerages locally and found out pretty quick I wasn't going to get that same 8Z vibe that I was digging. And so I decided I was going to build it. And so landed at the Remax that was here, and there was only one at the time. Tried talking to the Keller Williams and just didn't jive.
Yeah.
So I talked to just a couple and landed there, but then started taking my broker classes immediately. And then in the end of that same year, so December 20th of 16, I was issued my broker's license. And then I did my first ninja class. It wasn't actually ninja, right? Because I'm not a ninja coach, but
Yeah.
my first sphere management class
Okay.
in January 20th. And then that's more or less when the group started.
Okay.
And then everyone but one person that took that class joined the group.
Really? That's incredible.
Yeah.
How many agents? So you started that in 2016?
2017.
2017?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many agents did you grow that up to?
I want to say at the end there we had like 45,
Okay.
43, somewhere in there.
That's crazy. Selling how many houses a year?
We did 140 million the last year.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So growing that, you grew that till 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay. Which great time to exit.
Yeah.
You timed that pretty well. But what were kind of some of the struggles you learned growing that brokerage?
Overspending for leads instead of forcing sphere.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will just look at things online and they'll watch other people that are what they're presenting on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. They're like, oh, I need to be buying more Zillow leads. I need to be buying more homes.com. I need to be more involved in this thing. I need to be getting a coach. And so many of those things cost money and will actually push you out of the industry if you don't do it right.
Yep.
And so I would have agents that were frustrated I wasn't providing more leads like Zillow, but they also weren't even contacting their sphere on their birthday or for anything. They weren't doing customer appreciation events. And that was probably the hardest thing was, coaching and trying to help an agent and then them not doing any of those steps. That's just taxing on you.
Yep.
Is like somebody trying to help your friend do better. But on the flip side, some of my absolute favorite thing is a lot of groups that have a lot of the agents that went through the group, they're killing it now. They've got a ton of investment properties. They've got all the right skill set.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun to have met somebody, trained them how to do it. And then they took what you learned they learned. Then they went and learned a whole bunch more stuff.
Yeah.
And then have just gotten even better at it.
Yeah.
There's
I think
a lot of
that's
those around town.
one thing that I noticed from your group is you guys, you were a fun group and you guys did other things together outside of just selling real estate. One thing is you had a flipping company for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that you were kind of teaching your agents how to flip houses and partnering with you on that. So how was that flipping? Did you enjoy flipping the houses? You did that for about a year, 2 years?
We learned a lot. I think we flipped 40 something houses.
Wow.
In hindsight though, I wish we wouldn't have, because I bought 12 houses right off the river over here for $50,000 a door. And because the time we were flipping them through, if I would have just held them and let them just stay rough houses, I would have made $200,000 a door doing nothing.
Yeah.
But instead I put a bunch of money into it and then only made $30,000 a door, And so, I think a lot of people get excited about flipping, but really the trick is to just hold it forever and not ever sell it. Just buy it right. And we had such good rates at the time and stuff. I wish we would have just held.
Oh yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And a lot of the people that are now flipping locally are ones that came from that group or saw that or learned or followed along while we were doing it.
Yeah.
There's so many different things you can do in real estate and so many different specialties. It's just fun to see how people expand.
Yeah. Growing that for was it hard for you to want to sell that after growing it for, 5-6 years?
It was, but it's just because I'm still really good friends with a lot of the agents. I know people talk about their work family all the time, but we had an actual family going on. Like if you walked into our building and you walked into a different brokerage, just the feeling in the door was different.
Yeah.
We actually cared about each other. It wasn't cutthroat like the industry is itself.
Yeah.
And so in that way, it was really hard. But, I was able to, we transitioned to Pick Me Up, and it just spent a lot more time working with Amy, spent a lot more time growing the same vibe, but just in a different way. So a lot of the different talking heads that I like, they talk about how, millionaires are made by real estate, but billionaires are made by businesses and venture capital.
Yep.
And I feel like I really learned that in growing the group. I wasn't going to be able to get to where I'm hoping I can get one house at a time, one agent at a time. Yeah. You have to be able to scale faster than a brokerage can scale. And so it took 4 or 5 years to realize I'm not going to get where I'm trying to go, how I'm doing it.
Yep.
And so kind of the Pick Me Up origin story, because we did both for quite a while.
Okay.
So the Pick Me Up origin story, it started in 2016 from a guy named Josh Searle. Way cool guy.
Yeah.
He's from Shelley.
Yeah.
He built such a cool company. It was a 10 by 12 shed behind the movie theater over there. And my wife and I lived on Emmon Road. So Amy and I, she got pregnant with twins. We had moved over there, and she would go through all the time. And then when she had the twins, she'd go through all the time because that was the only time to talk to adults. Yeah. So she had the 2 toddlers and twins, and I was at the group all the time. So we were going through one time. She's like, oh, this person's working because that person had to take their shift. And it's like, how on earth do you even know that? Yeah. And so I was like, you should just buy it. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, you should just buy this business and run it. You know all of their names. You know their work schedules even. I mean, you love it. Yeah. This just seems like it would be a fun little side hustle. So reached out to the owner, and Josh said, you know what? I've been asked a bunch of times, because there was always lines there. I've been asked a bunch of times to sell it, but I've always said no, but I think now's the right time. And so he sent me his numbers. I kind of did my math of what I was comfortable paying. And then he told me his price, and it was way less than what I was comfortable paying. So I was stoked, didn't argue about a dang thing the rest of the transaction, closed it out. And then when we got that, this is kind of just a funny side note. I was denied a loan from ICCU. Really? And the reason was they didn't feel I had the management experience to run a drink shop. That's when I had 45 agents, and we just did 125 million in transactions. And I was like, are you serious right now?
What kind of numbers was Pick Me Up doing on that one location when you bought it?
I don't want to get too much into specific numbers. I'll tell you the percentage increases though. Okay. It was doing well. Okay. It had a couple hundred cars coming through every single day. It had a very loyal following. Yeah. But as soon as we bought it, we knew we needed to get the building a little bit bigger because a 10 by 12, we wanted to bring in some more products, and we wanted to be able to speed up the line. And you can't put more people in that small of a space. Yeah. The overflow storage was in our garage, so we were having to run things over all the time. So then I built a 12 by 30 building. Well, it's 11 by 11 so that it's technically movable. Okay. And put it over on the other side of that parking lot. And we were able to almost triple the cars going through. Wow. With that change. And we got a surprising, it's funny that even with soda, like you get so many people that will complain at you about things. Oh yeah. So we had people like, well, why would you do this? Now they can't pull around the building. This is so dumb. And it's like, okay, well, I increased it 300%. And we're able to get through it a whole bunch faster. We were able to have 5 people working at a time. Wow. With the new workflow. And we were able to be on city power, which we had to pay to run to that part of the lot because that was the only spot we could get power in there. Got it. Anyway, I'm getting too far at myself. Anyway, we bought that. And once we started growing it and messing with the little systems and organizing it a little bit better, we realized that that is something that could scale to where we wanted to go. And about then is when Coldwell Banker had reached out. It was actually their franchise guy had reached out saying, hey, one of our franchisees wants to buy into here. And so we've actually interviewed a few different brokerages. Would you want to chat with them? It's like, well, might as well at least see. Not thinking we were going to sell it. It wasn't up for sale. Yeah. And then we kind of got into it, and it just seemed like it was going to work out. But that's also, so we bought Pick Me Up and took operation October 25th, I want to say, of 19. Okay. And so then COVID hit, right? And so I was trying to navigate COVID, but at the same time, showings got weird and went down because nobody wanted them in their house. So things kind of slowed down at the group at the same time. So it took all the way till December of the next year for me and Coldwell Banker to finally be done with everything.
Really?
Because we were trying to see what was going to happen with COVID.
Yeah.
And in that year, I was able to focus on Pick Me Up, and we took it from 1 store to 5 stores.
Wow.
Really fast.
Yeah.
Which was just great. And it just became obvious that that was something that Amy and I could do together, and it was a lot of fun. So she does all of the marketing. Mm-hmm. She does all of the people stuff. I mean, our employees love Amy. She's the favorite one.
Yeah.
And I just make sure all the systems work, the financing's all set up, everything's organized correctly, machines work, and it works really well having that balance.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Is that the stuff you enjoy about running a business, like the systems, processes, financials? Yeah.
I don't like bookkeeping.
Yeah. You got to be a special person to enjoy bookkeeping.
Yeah. I took back over our bookkeeping January 1st of this year. So I'm doing all of Pick Me Up's bookkeeping. I'm not doing payroll though, which is good. And I'll keep doing that for another 60 days. But we ran into an issue where I knew things were wrong, but I didn't know QuickBooks, or I didn't know the different systems well enough to go find out what was being done wrong in the books.
Yeah.
Because I could look at the account and say, I know that this is incorrect, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
So I took some classes and learned how to find out what was wrong, found out what was wrong. So now I took over our bookkeeping to be able to figure out, or to be able to teach somebody else, and then to be able to check it correctly.
Got it.
So I'm going through that right now, and that's been
fun.
No.
Yeah. Did you have it outsourced, or did you?
Yeah, we had a third party, and they were doing a great job. It just, unless you're the person steering the ship, like you're going to want your P&L different. You're going to want it structured and your data organized a specific way.
Yep.
So Seth Reinhardt. So I don't know which book, he reads so many books, but one of the books he read, it was talking about the difference of actionable data versus interesting data. And our P&L was full of interesting data.
Yep.
And it was missing a lot of actionable data. So we completely redid it and have it now to where it's all actionable data. And that's been really cool to watch.
I feel like that's a common struggle, because especially when you're outsourcing it, like what we ran into is outsourcing your bookkeeping. It's like, they'll do it textbook bookkeeping.
Yeah, they'll do great.
And they'll do great, but they also don't know the narrative behind a lot of the actual intricacies of the business. And a lot of that is what is important to know. And so we've gone through the same thing where we just switched bookkeeping companies, and eventually my little brother's getting his CPA. I want him to just take over stuff, because, hey, you can be more involved with the business and, in person and know what's going on versus like, I don't want to, let's say a bigger company locally that's doing it for like a bunch of different businesses. They're not going to know your business independently. They're just going to do what they're supposed to do to make it clean and get your P&L out for the month.
Yep.
So are you guys planning to bring somebody in this next time once you're done with it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
The plan has kind of been to bring somebody in-house, but we may even go back to the same company we were using, but
as long as
I needed to learn it well enough to structure it how I wanted it.
Yeah.
So it has the right actionable data.
Yep.
Because since that wasn't an area of business I was very strong in, it was, whatever you think, you're the CPA, you're the accountant, you're the person that knows bookkeeping. So whatever you think. And then it just got to the point of like, okay, it's not whatever you think now. Yeah. I need this information in this way.
Yeah.
And so now we've just gotten to that point of that, because they were doing a great job. They were wonderful. I would work with them. They do our payroll still.
Okay.
But it's been very enlightening, changing some of the structure. So we're able to push different things with our management and some of that. But in the story, so Pick Me Up, we went to 5 stores, and now we're at 13, and we'll be adding another 1 or 2 this year.
Wow.
Bringing in some new products, which will be way exciting. So instead of trying to open 20 stores this year, we're going to bring in some more products, and we're going to bring in focus more on individual stores' efficiency.
Okay.
And I'm pretty excited about it.
And a lot of those, are those franchises? Are those?
I bought them all back. So I tried that.
Okay. Franchising wasn't the way to go.
It's not for me.
Okay.
It's a great model. It works for a lot of people. You can scale faster. Totally have respect for people that can do that.
Yeah.
I almost feel like we care too much to be able to franchise.
Yeah.
So we want everyone to do well that opens it. And it just, when we run them, they go really well. And so soda, everybody always seems to think, oh, well, you can make a drink of soda for 25 cents and then you have this huge markup. the markup isn't what everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
Especially through COVID, a lot of our costs went up between 400 and 2,000%.
Wow.
So where the margins got really, really tight, that's why so many soda places have died. And you've seen like new ones replace them and then they die. I think 11 have died since we bought Pick Me Up.
Wow.
And most of those we saw open and saw close. We saw their whole transition. It's just a bummer, right? So a couple of the franchisees, they were doing great. They were great stores, and we bought those back and we ran them. A few of the franchises, they just weren't taking, and the steps to be able to get them done, it's easier if we do it.
Yeah.
And so, like we have a weekly meeting with all of our GMs, so they're all collaborating and figuring out what's working best in their store for their different needs or pushing different KPIs. And it's just, we enjoy running the organization more than that.
Yeah. So we have an agent here that he worked for Kneaders for a long time, and they were similar. They tried the franchise model, and then they ended up buying back almost all their franchises and scaling it themselves, because you lose a lot of control doing the franchise model. It's like you can scale quicker, but what's more important to you, the brand and the experience of everything, or the store count? And so it's that hard thing to juggle. What's your guys' goal with Pick Me Up? Like, how many do you have, like a location number, amount of locations you want to get to, or?
No, we want to just keep growing.
Yeah.
Just keep expanding and expanding. We just want to do it right. So like we won best customer service in Idaho Falls this year. We won best place to work a couple years ago. We want to keep hitting those kind of awards.
Yeah.
And you can outscale your capacity to be able to maintain a quality product. So we want to grow as fast as we can while maintaining a quality product.
Yeah.
And we grew too fast for a minute, it felt like, to where it was just running too wild. And now everything's much more controlled and systemized. And it's been going really well. We opened 3 at the end of last year, but we opened the one in front of Brolem's and the one on Ammon Road. And those ones we had worked on for a couple years to get open because they were new builds.
Yeah.
But then we closed the Ammon store to do that. Oh, and a lot of people have asked why we closed the one in the movie theater where it was doing so well. It's because they upped the rent to over $7,000 a month for a parking lot without water.
Wow.
And so, we ex-nayed that.
Did you? That's insane. $7,000 a month. You don't even have a building.
No, we were paying more for that parking lot than we're paying for the new build end cap in front of Brolem's.
Wow.
So the whole reason we left was because it became unsustainable at what they were doing.
Just doesn't pencil.
They were the worst to work with.
The theater owns that, right?
A group owns that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was the property managers. I don't even think it was that group. It was
Got it.
just the people we were dealing with were really difficult to work with.
Got it. I'm just like, I don't know if it has any correlation with movie theaters struggling right now, and they're like, well, we'll just rake it from Pick Me Up.
Probably.
Did you guys own those buildings, the one in Ammon and the one in front of Brolem's, or
no, we don't
just
own
build the suit?
We'll build the suits. We don't own any of our buildings. That's something else we're going to work on this year.
Okay.
Is trying to acquire quite a bit of the real estate. Rates suck.
Yeah.
So I don't mind too much waiting a little bit. We might try to, because even an SBA loan, I got a quote yesterday. It's like almost 10%.
Really?
For an SBA real estate loan. So it's like, it just doesn't make any sense when we can just wait a few years and buy it.
For sure.
It won't save like what we're paying in rent to what we'd be paying at that rate.
Yeah.
It just, the math doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But that number comes down to 6% or something, as a rate, then it's like, maybe it starts to pencil there.
Yeah.
But 10% is a hard one to swallow.
Well, it'd be fun we really like end caps. So if we could buy a whole building, and have the other rent and then just take our little space on the end, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But
how many employees are you guys up to?
I think we're around 170 right now.
Wow. How has that been going from running a 40-person real estate brokerage where everybody's 1099, so you don't have as much say in what they can do, to running a business where you got 170 employees that are W-2?
It's really interesting. It is so fun watching these they're kids when I meet them.
Yeah.
Watching them grow up. And as they come to work at Pick Me Up, we've had people that are just the most responsible people you've ever interacted with.
Yeah.
To people that we have to teach how to sweep the floor. And so there's such a wide array, but it's so fun to watch them grow as they go through it all.
Yeah.
And my favorite is when we get a legacy family, is what we call them.
Okay.
Where we hired like the oldest sibling, and then we get the second sibling, and then we get the third sibling, and we just literally just get them at keep getting them as they're going
As
through.
they go through. Yeah. The family just keeps coming. Yeah.
And they're almost always perfect employees because they already know what to do. Their siblings been doing it for years. So we've got a couple families like that still that are really fun. I really enjoy our employees.
Uh-huh.
Even just walking into a store. So yesterday there was a photo shoot where a gal from Rexburg came down and brought some models and some wedding dresses, and they did a photo shoot. And it was, I wasn't there for that part, but I had to get the building ready.
Yeah.
So even just, I was there forever cleaning the front because there was a bunch of dust or sand from snow removal.
Yeah.
They hit the parking lot.
Yep.
So I was washing all that off to make sure I didn't get their dresses gross. And just listening to my employees interacting with their regulars, it's just so cool. Yeah. They just build such good friendships with the people that come through every day. And that's pretty fun to watch them interact. Oh
yeah. I feel like you guys have a really loyal following. Before I started into real estate, went from Wells Fargo, and I worked a small stint at Mountain View Hospital because my mother-in-law she's over the whole billing office. So she gave me a job while I went through my real estate classes so I could just kind of finish out. She knew it was kind of just a short stint. But being at that business office, those gals love pick me up, like religious. They would go through, and it was when Josh still owned it. They hired Derek, who Derek used to run Pick Me Up for Josh when he first started it. But they hired him into the business office, and just because they would go every day, and like they were just so loyal to that, and they became really good friends with Derek, and then eventually like, hey, you should come work at Mountain View. But yeah, you guys have a loyal following, which is really cool. I think it's been exciting to see the growth from a single store to now 13 locations that you guys have done here locally. Is there what kind of lessons have you learned through that growth? Because that's fast growth.
It is very fast.
Going from probably like 5 employees when you took it over or less to 170. What have you learned? Like, what kind of lessons have you learned through that growth?
So many. I almost have to pick a category to start in.
What about just like, I think from like business management of people, what is some of the lessons you've learned just managing people?
So both hire the right talent and get rid of the wrong talent faster. So both of those.
Okay.
So I had hired my cousin. He had just got his master's degree from Georgetown in HR.
Okay.
He came, did a great job, helped us grow a handful. And then he actually went to Amazon. And when he did, this Pick Me Up has a vibe. And if you've ever walked into any of our buildings, like you probably get what I'm talking about. We have a vibe. Mm-hmm. And the only person, when Travis told us he was going to Amazon, I just knew that Seth Reinhardt's the person that I needed. He's the right vibe. Because you've dealt with him quite a bit, right? Because of title.
Yeah.
Freaking love Seth. So I knew Seth was the right guy. So I had called him and said, hey, will you come meet with me tomorrow? And he's like, sure. And then we just got off the phone. I didn't even tell him why. So then he calls Brad. He's like, Brad, why does Zach want to meet with me? He's like, I don't know. So then Seth came over, offered him the job. And I've never done this before, but in the interview, I upped my offer $10,000 without him even saying no.
Really?
Just because he's such the right guy. And then he's just killed it. So
what's his role with you guys?
He's the CEO.
Okay.
So I deal with a lot of the bigger picture stuff, leases, what brand of equipment we're using, negotiating that pricing. I deal with the vendor contracts. Seth does pretty much everything else.
Okay.
As far as operation stuff.
Got it.
So you have Amy over here doing all of the marketing, all of, the designs, overseeing that. You have Seth overseeing operations. And then I'm dealing with the bigger picture, other things.
Got it. So you're not, so let's say a store
and we have Ken's. We have to mention Ken's. She's our regional manager.
Okay.
She started working for us when she was 17,
really?
I want to say.
Okay.
She was just a cashier, right? She wanted to be a baker. She made my twin smash cakes. And then she went from that to assistant manager, to general manager, to district manager. And now she's the regional manager. And she's just amazing too.
Wow. What stuck out about her when you like her work ethic as a cashier that made you want to kind of provide that growth?
So many things. Great attitude all the time. Great attention to detail, which in that age, it doesn't matter which generation you're from. At that age, attention to detail is just not a strength of that age group. And she had it. And just loyalty. She's been with us for years. So to be so young and still have worked. So she's worked for us, what would that be, 6 years now?
Yeah.
So pretty much from the beginning. And she just always steps up to the plate and just crushes it. So, yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear those kind of stories too, because it's like you don't have to, you can start somewhere at the bottom. And if you are doing better than everybody else, you're doing a little bit more than everybody else, you care a little bit more than everybody else, you're going to get provided more opportunity.
You are.
Like, what business owner would not want to give you more opportunity when they see you going above and beyond? But a lot of people in that job are like, it's a starting job, let's say,
Exactly.
I'm the cashier. I'm just going to do my bare minimum and go home.
Yep.
It's like, you're not doing yourself any good or the company any good doing
Being
that.
a minimum effort champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any like things that you try to instill in your employees?
So we have, this is one of the things Travis brought in that's really cool when he first worked for us. But Pick Me Up has 3 pillars, and it's pick yourself up, because if you're coming in with a bad attitude, like, you're just going to ruin everybody else's day.
Yep.
Pick each other up. So, and that includes doing your checklist, doing your tasks, being nice to your coworkers, doing the jobs necessarily you may not want to do because it's a little bit harder job.
Yeah.
But like helping each other. And then third is picking the customer up. And that's what's created that vibe. The employees are actually friends and like each other.
Yeah.
And if we get somebody that does come in that just doesn't quite fit, we do tend to help them move along a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Try to coach them, try to teach them, try to help them, because they generally are coming in at 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And we have a very low turnover in general.
Yeah.
You generally can't get hired if you're not in that. But yeah.
I feel like I love those pillars. Those are awesome pillars for a company. What kind of questions or what do you look for when you're in that, when you're looking to hire somebody to not hire the wrong person? I feel like it's so hard to really get down to the true character of people in an interview. Mm-hmm. Have you learned any lessons hiring, the amount of people that you've hired, that things that you look for?
So they have to do a phone interview, an in-person interview, and then we have them actually walk over the window and talk to customers.
Okay.
Before they're even hired.
Really?
Just for a minute, just to see how they interact with people.
Yeah.
And if they get through those 3, generally they've been a pretty good fit.
Got it.
Because if you're so shy you can't talk to anybody, you're probably, a drive-through place where the whole thing is the relationship is probably not the right place for you to be. Yeah. A lot of the people that work for us were referrals from employees we already have and like, and so that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
Through COVID, when everyone was having a hard time hiring, we never had that issue. There's a lot of people that want to work at Pick Me Up because you're making drinks, handing them out a window, listening to music that you like.
Yeah. With
other people your own age.
Yep.
So it's just a good environment to be around.
Yeah.
And it's just supportive and friendly.
I think that's one thing running a company. I think hiring people is like probably one of the hardest things to do. Hiring and managing people most of the time through a company. And like you said, make sure you hire the right people, but then if you don't, be quick to like transition them out.
Yeah.
But it goes back to culture. I think that's something that you've done really well at the group. You've done really well at Pick Me Up. Culture is so important because you're not going to struggle to go find good people to work for you when you have people coming to you that want to work for you because they already see the culture that's outward facing to the community. What can you talk a little bit like on your thoughts behind culture and kind of the importance of it?
Yeah.
In business.
Maybe worth having Amy come in and answer that question.
Yeah. Is she kind of more in charge of that?
She is.
Okay.
I think, at least from my perspective, what it comes down to is caring. Most businesses don't actually care about their employees. Yeah. And at the group, I would have bled for any of them. I stepped into transactions way more than a normal broker would if something was going wrong. Yeah. I would take calls if I knew that they were going to be stressed all weekend if I didn't answer the phone. I would answer it 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning just to make sure they weren't stressing out. Yeah. I don't agree with the turn your phone off at 5 and ignore it. Mm-hmm. That's never been something I agree with the principle of. Yeah. Because then your employee or your teammate or whatever is just going to stress out all weekend. Yep. But you could probably answer the question in 30 seconds and then that's not a problem. Yeah. So I think it's just that base of actually caring about your employees and not like saying you do, not just throwing them a pizza party, but like actually caring about them. And I think that's what got carried through both because you're right. The cultures in both have been absolutely awesome. Yeah. Our company parties are way fun. Yeah. Really enjoy interacting with them. Mm-hmm. Like we're our own best customers. We go to like 3 of our stores every single day.
Really?
So we go hang out with employees for a minute, maybe refill an ice bin, get a drink, move on to the next store.
Yeah.
But you should really have Amy come in and talk to that.
Yeah.
Because she's the heart and soul of the whole thing.
Yeah. You're kind
I'm
of
just the backbone.
Backbone.
Yeah.
All right, and you're probably more like the visionary. Is she as growth oriented as you are?
Oh no, I've definitely forced that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've definitely forced the growth. But yeah, I mean, we have employees that reach out about things that have nothing to do with work just because they love and respect Amy so much. They just want to talk to her.
Yeah. Which is cool.
It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like how you mentioned you guys are in a really cool area of life with your employees. It's like usually fresh out of high school or, you know, first kind of jobs, and you get to kind of see them, like you said, grow up, and you get to see them like kind of go off, and you might have a really pivotal moment in their life of you taught them like their first working skills and being responsible and principles of business. Like that's what excites me about the team when I can teach agents, you know, about investing into real estate and doing the flips like, you know, you've taught your agents in the past, and seeing that like light bulb switch for them of like, oh, this is a way to make money. I get so much satisfaction from that.
Oh yeah.
That it's worth putting up all the headaches of running a team, because there are numerous headaches of running a team.
Yeah.
And I think my wife is similar to Amy, where she kind of runs the marketing and branding of the team here, but not very growth oriented. And a lot of the time she's even just like, we've ran into things with the team. She just hates managing the drama of people, you know. Yeah. I think that's been the hardest part for us running a team. And it sounds like you kind of dealt with that a little bit when you were running the brokerage. Has it been different with Pick Me Up?
Yes and no. So people that have really big hearts and care a lot, they tend to feel like the sky is falling and things are heavier than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sometimes can be a little bit hard to navigate. I mean, we get complaints a couple a day, and sometimes the complaints are so silly. And sometimes we made a wrong drink, and it's like, if we make a wrong drink, come back through. We'll credit you. We'll give you a free drink. We'll take care of you.
Yeah.
But sometimes the complaints are just like, you don't even know how to address the person.
Yeah.
And it you know, we get a few people that will complain religiously about the same issue, but then we'll look at the camera and it's like that what you're saying didn't even happen.
Yeah.
And so that can be pretty hard. But no,
how do you manage that complaint and keep a good face, but like not also just cave into everybody's complaints?
So luckily, the difference between a real estate team and a soda, mine cost me $3 in a soda.
Yeah.
It's way easier for me to just eat it and move on.
Yep.
But if we get people that complain, like they're complaining about something that isn't something we're doing wrong, like we have encouraged them to go get it somewhere else a few times, as friendly as you can. But that has happened like twice in thousands and thousands and thousands of customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, in general, somebody has a valid complaint where something was made wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's always a bummer. And they're like, hey, I got a drink and I drove home. I live 30 minutes away. And then something was wrong. It's like, again, I have 16, 17, and 8-year-old employees. Sometimes they may press the wrong syrup or something might happen. We have it as organized as we can. So we apologize. You know, we give them a free drink generally if it was a mistake. We have cameras that look at all of our syrup so we can make sure.
Got it.
So we go and check it to make sure it was valid. And if it was, you know, we apologize and own up to it.
Yeah.
But we make sure that, I mean, one of the things we talk about is no customer should leave dissatisfied ever. So we push that with the employees. But I mean, so if we try to put that in math, we get between 2,500 and 3,000 customers a day.
Between your locations.
Yeah. And then we get 2 or 3 complaints a week.
Wow.
So when you do the math on it,
it's a good ratio.
Yeah. We don't get very many complaints. Our employees are really good.
Yeah.
And we have them, they have to pass menu tests and speed tests, and they have to pass a whole bunch of tests really quick.
Yeah.
In their first 3 trainings, so that they don't have too many mistakes.
Yeah. Smart. Sounds like you guys have, obviously you have really good systems and operations throughout the companies. What, coming from real estate into scaling like this, it's just such a different business.
It is.
What did you not know, like getting into it, going from learning how to scale lead flow and selling more houses to running operations and trying to make sure that you have the right systems to serve 3,000 customers a day? And then like, I'm sure overhead of running 170 employees stacks up. And, you know, what were some of the things that you didn't know that you've kind of dealt with your growth that?
So being a commission family and a real estate family for so long, it's really cool that a customer comes through and buys a drink and you were paid and the transaction was 3 minutes, and there isn't this, 30 to 60 days of something could go wrong. So the anxiety is not the same that can be caused from that. But at the same time, if you don't have enough customers coming through, it's an entirely different type of anxiety.
Yep.
But that is an interesting one to think about. I'm not sure if, our focus on Sphere bled over or not, but we do try to focus on our regulars. And Amy and I know the names of a bunch of them and interact with them. If we see them at the window, we say hi and chat with them and stuff. They're just very different animals.
Yeah.
But it's been fun to flex different muscles and learn different things. But the thing that stayed consistent between both is you have to be organized, structured, and systemized. And you have to in both.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many agents I've seen come in and go out of real estate. And even some that came to and worked with me and then ended up not making it in real estate. And the one consistency is they weren't consistent.
Yeah.
They didn't do all of those activities that were outlined. Because anybody that comes into real estate and knows anybody and follows every single step and actually follows them, actually makes the right amount of calls, actually contacts their sphere, and actually does all the things thoroughly from beginning to end, they can do okay. And they can do okay in an up market. They can do okay in a down market.
Yep.
But that consistency is hard to maintain. So, yeah, and that held true in both businesses.
Yeah.
Is the consistency.
Because I know that are you still doing any kind of real estate investing and stuff on the side?
Not right now. I sold everything.
Yeah.
In growing growing Pick Me Up. But we're going to start jumping back into, have you ever looked at Mobile, Alabama? So it's a very interesting city. It's large. It's a port city, but it's not a port city you'll go get on a Royal Caribbean cruise. It's a port city like the huge container ships come in there and unload tons of jobs from it.
Okay.
So they've announced a couple of years ago, and they're still in that growth phase of hiring even more people. So tons of people, tons of growth for years to come.
Okay.
And you can buy a 3-1 for $50,000.
Really?
And rent them out for $800, $850, $900. So the percentage returns are not something you see in this part of the country, not something you're going to see up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
The returns are amazing. And, those are a little bit rougher houses, but when you look at the map and you look at pricing, there isn't, like, there will be a little pocket of cheap houses next to a neighborhood of 7-figure houses. And so we're going to start probably jumping into some of that. I have a buddy who, between Mobile and up to like Nashville and into Indiana, he's picked up 190 doors in the last 3 years, but he's been well over the 1% rule. And the 1% rule, including taxes, for some reason people tend to ignore the taxes part.
Yeah.
But like a true 1% rule.
Really?
Which has been cool to watch. Just make sure I get a good property management.
Yeah. That's always been my biggest fear about investing out of state is just not having enough connections to make it run smoothly.
Yeah.
It's like here, if there's a problem, like I know enough people, we have enough contractors and connections that like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it scared a little bit more nervous doing that in another area. But do you guys have like a real estate, like what's kind of your long-term wealth goals? What do you plan to build a real estate portfolio? Do you plan to just continue to go all in with Pick Me Up? Where do you see yourself in like 5 years?
I don't know. It depends what opportunities come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to be much more rigid with my plan. I have my end goal. I still want to hit $1 billion in net worth by 50, but I'm not on pace.
That's like your BHAG, your big hairy audacious goal. Okay.
And so, and that was kind of one of the things with the group where it's like, I'm not going to do that on this, and this racetrack won't get me there. I have to get on a different track. And so I'm not exactly sure, where we'll be. I imagine we'll keep running Pick Me Up forever. Probably get into real estate. I'm a big fan of Forex trading. Okay. I'm a pretty big fan of stocks. Yeah. They're predicting a pretty decent crash in the stock market by the end of March of this year. And so, I guess I'm not quite sure how we're going to get there, but just keep looking at opportunities. I feel like a lot of times people, they make a plan. They're like, well, I want to have this many doors by this. I want to have this by here. I want to have this by here. And it's like, that's great. But if you're so focused on this, you're going to miss all those other opportunities that might come by.
Yeah.
And so I know where I want to get to. And we've been trying to add more skills and things, to our set to be able to get there. But yeah, that's a hard one to answer.
Yeah. I think it's a good answer. I love that you shared your goal too. Like, it's a big goal. Do you guys plan to, do you see yourself buying other businesses in the future?
Very possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause
it's not for sale, but there's a sandwich place in town that's so stinking good that it really should just be every sandwich place everywhere. It's not even for sale. I don't even know the owners. I just really like it.
Is it Sandwich Tree?
Of course it's Sandwich Tree.
Yeah,
it's the best sandwiches that I've ever had.
It is. And if you could, looking at that, like, that's a business that they have the best sandwiches, and they could be so much better at marketing.
Well, and just a second location. Throw in an ammo with the drive-thru. I'll go there every day.
Yeah.
You get on DoorDash.
Yep.
I'll order it. 11 o'clock at night, I want a sandwich. I'm ordering Sandwich Tree.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not for sale or anything. There's nothing there. But so, if an opportunity came up where it's like, man, I really like that business, but I feel like I could take it further. Mm-hmm. There could be some of those kinds of things that come up down the road.
Yeah. It's kind of the hot, I ask because that's kind of the hot thing right now. Venture capital, buying businesses, flipping them, kind of doing that whole venture capital model. And you guys have learned probably so many valuable lessons running Pick Me Up that you really could look at another company and say, we could do this, this, and this, and probably 3x their revenue.
And that's that's still the skill set we're working on. So there's one of my favorite things. I'm not a fan of college. It wasn't for me.
Same.
I'm not a fan of higher education as a general rule. Obviously, I want my doctors to have had it. But what I really like about what's changing with higher education right now is you can go get certificates. It used to just be certificates were, a minimum requirement for a job or whatever. But there's 2 specific ones that Harvard is offering, and I enrolled in one of them. It starts next month.
At Harvard?
Yeah, it's an online.
It's cool, though. It's still a cool little...
You collaborate with other people that want this specific topic.
Yeah.
So the topic of the first class, it's only 6-week course or 8-week course, is best practices for analyzing financial statements, but it's all of them.
Okay.
So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on a P&L and all of that, but it goes through all of those other reports in QuickBooks that I have no idea what they do.
Yeah.
So it just does an in-depth all of those, and places like Harvard and, other ones. I learned from a guy that was the head business professor at Harvard for 20 something years.
Okay.
And he always taught with case studies. And I love that way of learning.
Yep.
And so I'm really excited for this course to be able to just learn a whole bunch more practical skill that way. And then they have a follow-up course to it, which is leading your company based on your financial statements. And so I feel like we've learned a lot of those skills, but I'm really excited for those 2 specific courses.
Yeah.
And, there's some other ones that in trying to build the skill set to be able to do exactly what you're saying, where you go into this business, you're like, oh, well, you're spending too much here. You're spending too much here. You need to organize this better. I don't know why you have that department, like all of those kinds of things. I'm excited to learn more structured skill set.
Yeah.
And then be able to have that experience to back up, like, well, I agree with that. This worked great. Let's explore that a little bit more.
Yeah.
This may be an opportunity for us to look at.
Yeah.
I do imagine that will happen at some point in the future where we'll get other businesses, but
well, I think it's how long are those courses that you're taking?
6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. So not bad.
Yeah, they're not bad. And you have live interactions with the professor and with the other students in that course.
Okay.
So it's not just like like the real estate classes where you just kind of click through a slideshow.
Yep.
You're just kind of falling asleep and you take a quiz. It's much more interactive.
Okay.
According to the brochure. I haven't done one yet. I'll let you know how it goes.
I'm curious. I'll follow up because that stuff intrigues me. I'd love to do that stuff too. Because I think, like you, I'm not all in on the higher education, but I think that there's an importance I've learned. There's really big importance to be able to understand your financials within a company.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, it's like you need to go take a QuickBooks course, go take those kind of courses to learn it. But I also think that there's the people that know all that stuff, but also have no understanding of like how important culture is or creating, marketing and branding of a company and using their sphere and influence to like grow that company. And so you guys have those things hit, and it's like, if you could ring in this other, like being able to depict companies from their financials and see the opportunities there, like you kind of got the full wheelhouse now, and that could definitely get you to your big, hairy, audacious goal.
I feel like adding a few of those skills will be really helpful.
Yeah.
There was another course. There's one called Disruptive Entrepreneurship. That seemed like a really good course. There was another one that's valuing, it's specifically for venture capitalists, but it's valuing other businesses. Like there's just so many courses where like, oh, I would love to learn that specific skill.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to dig into those over the next year and try to add more arrows in our quiver, more things that we can work with.
Do they require anything for those courses?
Money.
Like just
you have to apply.
Okay.
So, but those courses are designed for business professionals that want to learn that skill. So like, yes, but at the same time, like you or myself, we're probably the perfect person that they're wanting to bring in.
Yeah.
Because we're the people that have kind of kicked against the colleges a little bit. We're like, I'm not going to take humanities for you to teach me a business course.
Correct.
Like I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have time for that nonsense. But some of those higher end courses would be wonderful to learn and to do, especially the collaborative part with the other people and being able to learn from a case study and then to be able to see how to apply that. Like I'm just excited about it.
When does that start? You said
next month.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to follow up with you and see how that goes. Cause I'm intrigued. I'm like, I'm going to probably go look and see if there's any courses that I want to take,
and it's not just Harvard. It's all of them are doing it now.
Really?
Any of the Ivy League schools are all doing it, all the way down to some of the more local schools are doing it now.
I think they have to.
Well, and it's a transition that's been needed for a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to take astronomy, but I would love to get access to, a really good professor at analyzing this specific thing. I want to learn how to do that. And I do agree you can learn most things on YouTube. There's something to be said from an education professional still, though, in a specific topic like that.
Correct.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
That's cool. That's awesome. What have you guys had any struggles running a business as a spouse, like as a couple, as spouses?
There's definitely tensions that get created when you have one person that has a really, really big heart, which is Amy.
Yeah.
and you have one person. Too. I care. We didn't get the customer service thing from me. Got it. There's a point where somebody complained enough time, I would have invited them to stop coming to our store faster. Kind of a side story. There's been a few times that we've had to call people's employers and ask them to tell their employee to not come through our store anymore.
Really?
Making our employees uncomfortable and being rude.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that side of it. Yeah. That's
yeah. We had a whole run-in once with a union and a whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. It's really interesting to just see how people interact with other people. And we see so many people now that we get to track a bunch of this. But anyway, working with Amy, it's great in general. It works wonderfully. So like, since we focus on different parts of the business, we have a weekly meeting we're both at, but other than that, she really sticks to her wheelhouse and I really stick to this. And even though there's still collaboration, we're able to do a lot of our running around together.
Yeah.
But like, there's a photo shoot at 5 p.m. I'll be with the kids, hanging out with them, making them dinner while she's doing that part, or if I've got to run to a meeting. The hardest part of working with your spouse is that you're both thinking about the same company all the time. And sometimes the variety of conversation, the variety of focus and stuff can just be kind of taxing. Yeah. And I don't know if this is the same for you guys. I annoy her by wanting to talk about Pick Me Up too much.
Correct. Yep.
And so
It's not about the business.
Yeah.
But I when you have these big goals, and I think when you can see or know what you're capable of, it's hard to like stop thinking about it.
It is.
Until you get there. But we'll probably never be there to where we think we're going to get to. And so
So
it's like,
when you hit the first goal, like you're already like, when you're like 3/4 away there, you're always like, you know what? I think I could do better. And you're pushing the next one. Are you a muser? Like, do you like to sit there and like talk about an issue and circle and try to find other things on how to solve it? 'Cause that's how I am.
Yeah.
It drives Amy nuts.
Yeah. Cause she's there's a problem, like fix it.
No, it's more like, it's like Pick Me Up has a couple new products coming up that are pretty cool. And so I like to sit there and be like, well, how do you think it'll be received from this? Like, should we do this differently? And just like adding to it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily even there's a problem. It's like, how could we make this better?
Yeah.
But I'll pose it as a question. And then it just drives me nuts sometimes. Like, I don't know the answer. It's like, I know you don't know the answer. We're discussing. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Flowing.
But
yeah. Bree's, she's very like direct and just doing things and would rather just like go. And sometimes I like to ponder on it because it's like, how are people going to think about this? And she's like, we won't know until we do it. I'm like, yeah, but can we like predict?
Yeah.
And, like, you know what so I think I'm probably similar.
Yeah.
What's anything that you guys are looking forward to this year? I know you said you're doing some new products, potentially another location or two.
Yeah.
All here locally. Are you guys?
Yeah.
Do you guys plan to branch out into other states?
Yeah, we're in Utah right now.
Okay.
We have one in Hurricane, Utah, which is a franchise we bought back. We'll go into other states more. The ones we're looking at this year, all three of them are in Southeast Idaho.
Okay.
But we'll expand into other markets. But again, it's more of a focus on quality right now. So we're going to open those few stores. We added 3 stores last year. We'll probably do about the same this year. But bringing in some of those new products are going to be quite time consuming to make sure it's done properly.
Yeah. How's your work-life balance right now?
I don't like the term work-life balance.
Okay.
I've never agreed with it as a concept.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a work-life harmony. And it's great other than I need to be better at turning it off at different times.
Yeah.
So that's a personal fail of mine. But other than that, it's good.
Good.
So like sometimes you have to go do something at 7 at night, but I'm also at home at 2:30 almost every day when my kids get home from school.
Yeah.
And so like this weekend, since it's President's Day, like we're just running to Salt Lake and all of the hotel and everything's on points from Pick Me Up.
Yep.
So like we're going to go have fun for a few days. And some days in the summer, it's really long. Like the kids are, with a nanny or with somebody all day, and Amy ran off and did all these marketing things and I ran off and did all of these other things.
Yeah.
But as long as you take the slower times, because I know it's shocking. People don't want a really cold drink as badly in January when it's snowing as they do in July when they're dying.
Yep.
And so this is our slow time. And, work-life balance, even when it was at the group and I was taking a call at 8 o'clock at night, and again, it goes back to that caring part where I really just struggle with that as a concept.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, I don't think that's a thing. You have to find a harmony between the two, not a balance between the two.
Yeah.
You have to make sure the businesses you're doing work with your family and your goals.
Yeah.
More than at 5 o'clock, I turn off my phone. Because I've worked with some agents that turn off their phone at 5 o'clock, and it's like, you realize you're the problem.
Yeah.
You're causing stress to my client. You're causing stress to your client. You're causing stress to me. You could have just answered your damn phone at 5:30, and you would have answered this one question and moved on. But now my client's going to stress out all weekend, and the deal's going to fall apart on Monday.
Yeah.
Because they made a mountain out of a molehill, and it's because you decided to turn your phone off at 5 because that's what you were told to do in your training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm like, I asked that because I'm curious to hear everybody has a different answer for that.
Yeah.
Because it's molded to like what your goal is and like what your harmony is for your life. Some people might say, yeah, I work X amount of hours and then like I take my Sundays or Saturdays off, or but you're like, I'm home at 2 some days and some days I have to work till 7 or 8. Like it's just kind of ebbs and flows. I think you have to find what works for you. Mm-hmm. But you also, I think people need to break the mold of like, you're building this company, you've got this amount of employees, and you're not saying like, I just work all day and I have to put in 14-hour days. I think that's the kind of the mold right now too, is like you have to like sacrifice everything else to build something of value. And I think you have to, there's seasons that you'll go through where, yeah, you're going to probably work more during that season, but it's not a forever thing. And what are your thoughts on that? Like,
so, there's definitely times a year where we work stupid like that.
Yeah.
But it's not all the time. And that's also where bringing in the right employees, the right people to work with, that help a lot with that. Because if I was trying to do Seth's and Ken's and my job and Amy's job, I would be working 17 hours a day and I wouldn't be doing any of it well.
Yeah.
And I would burn out and then I would quit and then it would all crumble.
Yep.
But since we have Ken's working on, making sure everybody's trained in the application of the systems, Seth overseeing everything else, and helping implement the bigger things of Pick Me Up, Amy doing all of the marketing. Like, since we all have our own lane, I feel like it's a lot easier to not have to work 14 hours. But like there's the first week of September is a blackout date. So that's the other thing. Our corporate team has no vacation days as far as like, that's not right. We don't count their vacation days.
Got it.
They take as many as they need. So Seth did a run thing where he was in Italy for 2 weeks. And it was totally fine because everything was structured. I picked up these few responsibilities. Ken's picked up these few. A couple weeks ago, she doesn't take enough vacation. We like try to make her go take vacation.
Yeah.
But she went to Hawaii for a week. And it's like, you have to do that to not experience bad burnout.
Yep.
But the first week of September is the fair. And we have that booth at the fair. And it's lights out for those 10 days. We built out a shipping container. Did you go there last year? Did you see it at all?
Yeah.
So that shipping container.
You leave that there, right?
Yeah, it lives there. So we actually bought these really cool axle things. So when you're there next time, look at them. They're just neat. They're for shipping containers specifically. Then we had my brother-in-law came and welded the hitch on it so they could move it. But so yeah, it'll live there the next 20 years now. But that week is just very, very long for everyone. Whether we're running stuff down there to keep up with its volume, whether it's helping make sure the stores are still running because everybody else is over at the fair. I mean, it's just I swear Ken's probably worked 14 hours a day for all 10 days in a row. Seth probably worked about that. I was running to every other store, making sure product was there. Like we have a time. Luckily we know right now, first week of September sucks.
Yeah.
But it's fun too, because it's when you're pushing that much volume and we have like 8 employees in there and everybody's laughing and the other booths trade food with us and stuff. And you get to know the other booths. But
yeah. Those are things you remember.
Yeah.
Those days. It's like you don't necessarily remember the days where you weren't doing a whole lot and you kind of just were chilling. You remember the days that like you were grinding, and you can't do it all the time because you're right, you'll burn out. But looking back, it's like sometimes those little seasons excite me, because it's like those are the times that things are going to happen, and those are the memories you're going to create about building the businesses that you've built.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that you've got your employees to a level where you trust them to, hey, you can take as many vacations days as you want, but also understand like when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I also expect you to be there probably more than you need to for that season as well.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point? And how did, were you nervous to make those 2 first bigger hires?
I was not nervous to make those 2 hires at all, but I knew Seth was the exact right person for that position. And he's proven it every day since. He's amazing. And then Ken's earned that spot over years of hard work and being amazing. So I was not nervous on either of those hires. I have not for a second regretted either of those.
And I think a lot of people struggle though with those first kind of initial hires, because you have to, it's if you pay somebody 80 to 100 grand, it's like that is direct profit that you maybe are taking right then, that you're committing to them in hopes of growing, surpass that. But in a lot of people, you take a step backwards to go 5 steps forward.
Yeah.
Have you ever struggled making those decisions, or have you always been kind of growth oriented as far as like, I know I need to increase my cost. My overhead's going to increase if I want to get to this point.
So before I hired Travis, so right after we bought Pick Me Up, and I was running the group, and luckily it had slowed down a little bit because of COVID, but running Pick Me Up, trying to open all those stores at the same time, before Travis was there, that was too much. all on one person. Because Amy would have been there helping, but she just had twins.
Yeah.
So it was too much at that time. So when I brought in Travis, that really opened my eyes of like, oh, well, that's nice. Bringing in somebody that has a skill set to complement, to help, a second set of hands to push out.
Yep.
And I learned quite a bit through that one of when you're giving somebody else responsibilities and you're handing them this off of your plate and you're going to do that. And I learned this even the most this year is I still tend to stick my nose back into it to make sure that well, did you forget this? Well, did you forget this? And then Seth finally took me to lunch and as nicely as he could said, back the heck off and just trust me to do my job. And that was, I don't know, like a year ago. And he's done a perfect job ever since.
Yeah.
And it's alleviated so much stress for me, not stressing about it.
Yeah.
But he's also doing a great job, and he was doing a great job before. So I was creating my own headache there. So I think a lot of the nerves that come from when you make your first hire is you still trying to do the job instead of just making the right hire, which I know is the hardest part we already talked about, but making the right hire and then just trusting them to do it.
Yeah.
That was a funny meeting though.
A lot of people struggle with that, the delegation and letting something go.
It's hard
when you care about something the way you care about it.
Yeah.
And to trust somebody else to just fill it up.
And sometimes they'll make a choice you wouldn't have made. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll say specifically what you want done and it'll be done slightly different than what you said. And that's just part of working with other people. And there's also a level of self-awareness where it's like, you don't make the decision right every single time. So sometimes trust the other person,
yeah.
You know? And yeah, those have been important lessons to learn.
Yeah, because you have to have people to grow. You can't, nobody can, solopreneurship is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you have to learn those skills and it's a hard skill to learn. Have you read Who Not How?
No, I haven't read that one.
You should read that one. That'd be good. Especially for like the stuff that you're doing and where you want to get to. But it's a good book, but it's essentially talks about finding the right people.
Yeah.
To get you to where you want to go. Like one example is like a coach that doesn't have a skill set in writing a book, but like if he finds the right person to like co-write the book with him, that'll get done.
Yeah.
And like how much of an impact can that make by just finding that right who to do 80% of that work and get you out there versus like, he knows that, I want to write a book forever, but like you're never going to do it because you're never going to have time and you just don't have that skill set.
Yeah.
And so finding the right who's in areas of your life that you can bring into your world to help you get to where you want to go. But yeah, it's a really good one. You have to read that.
Have you read Jim Collins' books? Good to Great,
no.
Build to Last, How the Mighty Fall. I want to say there's a fourth one too.
I've heard all of their nams, but I haven't read any of them.
So all those books. So they're kind of in sequence. It was a continuation of a study. So I might be wrong. I think he's an economy professor, economics professor out of Boulder. And he did a study of just a bunch of publicly traded companies and how the leadership changes affected it and the type of leader they were and the decisions they made and how it affected it. And all of the sales data is public, right? Because it's all publicly traded companies.
Yep.
And those are fascinating books. But one of the big things that he pushes a lot in it is you have to have the right person on the bus and get the wrong people off the bus. Mm-hmm. And those books had a pretty big impact on how we do things in the same exact way of what you're saying.
Yeah.
The same type story, different angle. But yeah.
How do you have you ever struggled to find you have a good person that you really like, but maybe they're not the best for the company?
Yes.
How did you find that out? And like, was it hard to let them go? We've dealt with one where it's like, you like that person and you think they're a good fit, but like down to the core, that they're not a great fit, but you want it to work for them so bad.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is not a strength of mine.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at letting people go in that instance.
Yep.
Because when you actually care about them and you have that culture, like they're your friend too. But no, we've had to let a couple people go. And the other thing about when you care about people a lot, one of the weirdest meetings I ever had, sat down with a gal. We knew we had to scale back, and she more or less fired herself in the meeting, but it's because she knew that was the right choice. That was one of the weirdest meetings I've ever been in.
Yeah.
But I super appreciate it because I don't know if I would have been able to actually fire anybody. I had to let go of a buddy that I'd had for 20 years as a programmer at one point. And it was the right choice. But it was the right choice a year before then. And so I burned a lot of money and time. And he burned a lot of effort in a direction on a project that got abandoned.
Yeah.
So and that's the part that I feel like until you've done that a handful of times, you don't realize you're actually setting them free and stopping wasting their time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that specific buddy, he's a super high-end programmer, talent for days, amazing guy. And he went and got another job that paid him twice as much.
Yeah.
Like, I should have let him go a year earlier. I wouldn't have burned the money. I wouldn't have been stressed about it. He wouldn't have wasted a year of his time.
Yeah.
And he would have made twice as much. So, and we've had a few people that we have that have worked at Pick Me Up where we put them in a position thinking they would grow into it, and they aren't growing into it. They're minimum effort champions, or it's just not working right, but like they're great and you like them and they're loyal, but they don't have the other skill sets, and they're not willing to flex the muscles to develop them.
Yeah.
More often than not, I found that those people wash themselves out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do need to speed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I know what you mean. Like, they're not toxic. They're not pulling anybody else down, but they're also not doing themselves any favors.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're not fitting your 3 pillars, or they're not, picking themselves up, picking others up, and picking the customer up. They might be feeling like one of them, but they're lacking in the other 2, something like that.
Well, and with those, if they hit all 3 pillars, if they don't hit all 3 pillars, I'll let them go, and I won't feel too bad about it.
Yeah.
I've had a few that hit all 3 pillars, but for the responsibilities of their specific position, they're just not meeting it.
Yeah.
But I know they're trying. And we won't keep anyone to Pick Me Up if they don't hit those 3 pillars. They'll go out really fast.
Yeah. I think that's part of my, I just hold on to people for too long because I want them to succeed. But I've learned that it's like you can take them to the well, but you can't make them drink. Commend you on too that I've just watched is you as an entrepreneur. Like, you've gone through real estate, you've gone through flipping homes, you've gone now into Pick Me Up. You've never let your ego prevent you from pivoting when you felt like you should pivot.
It's an acquired skill.
Yeah. I just know so many people that like they'll just continue flipping houses even if they're not good at it, or not, like it's not the right vehicle for them to get to where they want to be. But they're doing it because like they're just attached to that business, or they're attached to the real estate business. But you were able to analyze, this isn't the right vehicle to get me to where I want to be. I need to pivot. How do you come up with like, how do you detach your ego from that stuff?
I think it comes down to what you're focusing on, because it's really easy to not get into that thing. If you're looking down here, you're looking at this, and you're looking just solely like, well, I have to be structured, I have to be committed, I have to do this, I have to have this many by this many houses by this time, I have to have this many by this, I have to have this many transactions. You're missing all these opportunities over here. One of the things that they go over in the ninja training is your perceptual map.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that kind of drawn out? So the amygdala, right? I'm sure you've heard things on the amygdala. So that's your Google filter. Just it's what your brain's going to catch and what it's going to pull to your attention, because we pull so much raw data we can't process it all. So it's what it's going to bring to your attention. You buy a red car, all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. So in this training, it was talking about your perceptual map. So he has the big old whiteboard, and he says, here's you, and does a dot. And he's like, and here's the people you know, and does a circle. And he's like, well, here's the people they know, and does a circle at that, does another circle. And he's like, and then this is the rest of the world. He's like, the problem that you can run into is your perceptual map can just be you. You can be very self-centered. You can just scroll. You can not really expand outside of yourself. I'm sure we all know somebody who all of their opinions are based on an influencer telling them their opinion, and they have no original thoughts. And it's like, that's kind of a bummer for them. Their perceptual map is from social media and from other things been pushed so small and so condensed that they're kind of a shell. And then, I know it's really rude, but then you have your perceptual map of here's, and they were talking a real estate aspect, but I feel like it applies to everything. Here is your sphere, and these are the transactions you can have here. But here's all their friends, right? And then here's the people you can interact with. He's like, but you might be missing out on this development that you don't know anybody, you just know it's happening, or you maybe miss out on this, or you may miss out on that. But I feel like when you change your perceptual map and you're able to expand of just looking for opportunities and looking for things, if you're focused more on your goal and your eyes are up instead of down in a channel, it's easy to just completely sidestep it being an ego issue. Because I definitely run into that sometimes where it's like somebody says, we should do it this way. And I say, we should do it this way. And then somebody else says, we should do it this way. And I'm like, we're going to do it this way. And I'm not always right.
Yeah.
But the data doesn't lie. So you just look at it and then you're like, well, crap, you were right. And then you switch it.
Yeah.
And that's where I was saying where it's an acquired skill is sometimes that first step of stopping and be like, well, even though this is what I said, your idea is way better. Let's go with your idea. And I feel like that's done pretty well. I think working with your spouse helps with that too. Is I don't have the right answers all the time. Amy doesn't have the right answers all the time. Seth doesn't have the right answers all the time. Ken's mostly has the right answers. But, whenever there's, we'll get a lot of different things and push in a direction. But sticking with what you said, Bree said, of you won't know until you just make a decision. You still have to pull the trigger pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it will develop whether it was the right choice or not relatively quick with the data, and then you can adjust.
Yep. I think that's what a lot of people just need to understand is it's okay to adjust. It's okay to admit that maybe you made the wrong decision and just take the data and adjust. Don't be stubborn headed. And not that like you starting a brokerage was the wrong decision. It taught you so much, but you were able to say, this wasn't the right decision to get me to my end goal.
Yeah.
So let's pivot and try this other thing.
And I would never call it a mistake. I have so many good friends and things have come out of that.
Yeah.
But, what was the name of the book? There's a real estate book. The principle that it talks about is changing for the stream. I think it was one of the Gary Keller books.
Okay.
But it was talking about how when the market shifts from a buyer's market to a seller's market, you have to change the flow of the water changes. So you have to change where you're holding your bucket. I don't remember what book it's from. My dad told it to me. I didn't read
Shift or something like by Gary Keller.
Shift. It is Shift. That is the book. I can't do those books. I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I'm actually anti the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I roll my eyes. I tried to read the one thing. I couldn't freaking do it. It could have been a memo, and you could have not wasted it. It's like the 10X. You read 10X?
No, I haven't read 10X.
From Grant Cardone?
Grant Cardone.
Could have been a memo.
Yeah.
Great memo. One of the best ones.
Well, I feel like that's a lot of books. It's like the full book. It's usually there's like 3 or 5 golden nuggets from the book that just like, you just capture those.
Yeah.
And it's like, the other 200 pages, it's like, could have maybe not been there, but.
And I probably handed you this book when we first met, but did you read the Go Giver?
Yeah.
Did I hand it to you?
I probably. I had
the red one?
Yeah. I had our whole team read it. It was like one of our first team books that we read. I love the Go Giver.
I looked the other day. I have bought 400 of them.
Really?
Yeah, the little hardback ones.
Yeah.
I've given them out. I don't have any left, so I've given 400 out.
Wow.
But have you read the other ones?
No.
There's 5.
I haven't. Yeah. I've looked in.
The green one sucks. Skip it. It doesn't tell it in a storyline.
Okay.
And it could have been reduced to a memo. But all of the other ones, there's the Go Giver, and then there's Go Giver.
There's a blue one that I can't remember.
Leader is the blue one.
Okay.
And then there's Influencer, which is the purple one. And there's another one in there somewhere. But anyway, they all tell them in a story. So what I respect the heck out of those books is it's showing you a practical application, although it's a little bit convenient in the stories. Yeah. But it tells you in a story and gives you a practical application, and it's easy to read. Yeah.
And it's quick.
I love those books. And the principles are, it could be a memo, but it wouldn't hit you the same.
Yeah.
as opposed to the other ones, like the examples you're using, I don't believe most of them happened, you know? Did you ever read The Thank You Economy?
No.
That's a Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay.
Great book.
I read his first one. What was his first book? I can't remember. I've been listening to Gary for like a long time. Love Gary Vaynerchuk, but I haven't read it. No, I haven't read it. Is that a newer one of his? Thank you.
No, I listened to the audiobook while I was mowing my lawn in 2022.
Okay.
Beginning of the summer. So it was a couple years old then. So
okay.
It's probably 4 years old, 3 years old.
One thing I appreciate about him is he's been always big on, like, he talks about when he grew Wine Library, like individualized gifts for like the clients that come and do a lot. And we've really taken that, like our whole model is we want to make the client experience so exceptional that we're going to get a lot of repeat and referral business. Mm-hmm. And he's always been a big proponent of that. Like, you made X amount of money, like spend some money to make it an even better experience for that client, because they refer you one customer and it's like that gift pays for itself. Or
they don't. And in 10 years, they buy a house from you again.
Exactly.
Those 10 gifts were worth it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I got way off topic. Shift, the book, was talking about moving, you move the bucket in front of the stream or whatever to be able to adjust. So when you approach everything with that, it helps you not get stuck and helps you keep your eyes up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of agents that were really, really good in 2008, 2009, 2010, doing foreclosures, doing things like that. There was an agent I worked with at 8Z. He's not there anymore, but he was really good at the bank REO stuff. Really good, extremely talented. Sold hundreds of houses those couple of years.
Yeah.
But then when it got to working with your sphere, it was garbage, and his career tanked. And he had to really work hard and flex different muscles to learn how to do that. But it took him a long time to make that transition because he was so rigid in doing the one stream that when the stream moved, he didn't move his bucket,
Yeah.
Sorry, I tend to meander.
No, I think it's such a good visual, because I think you have to be, like, even when the economy is constantly shifting, and it's shifting faster than ever now because of all the technological advances. I think, like, agents, like, it's why we do content, why we do social media. It's like, it's the way to stay in front of your sphere now, at scale.
Yeah.
On top of doing all the other little things. And so many agents are just so, like, anti-content or anti the way things are going. Like, you should just be out door knocking and doing this stuff. And it's like, we're not, that was a really efficient 20 years ago maybe, but there's a lot of better ways to do things now.
Yeah. So many of those things are so outdated. Like, door knocking is not a way to do it.
Yeah.
Knocking around your new listing, that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
But those are not the two same things. I feel like sometimes people take a principle from a book, a fantastic principle from a book, and they twist it. And then how they try to use it, you're like, that isn't even hitting the point of what that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've met a few people like, well, I went and knocked on 100 doors. It's like, great. Did you have any good conversations? Well, only 8 people were home. It's like, you probably could have just gone and sat in somebody else's open house and talked to 3 people that are actually industry specific.
Or my favorite one's like, I went and knocked doors. Yeah, I had a great conversation. Awesome. Did you get his info? No, but I give him a business card. Like, so there goes that lead.
So in 2000, what year would that have been? So in 2017, the beginning group started. By June of 17, it was the last time I bought myself business cards.
Oh yeah.
I've never had them since.
Yeah.
And I've had probably 2 different people over the last however many years that's been now, 7 years. 4, yeah. Be like, well, can I have a business card? And I said, I don't have one. Let me give you my number. Let me grab yours. I've only had 2 times in that whole time where the person was like, you don't have a business card, and seemed like almost weirdly offended by it.
Yeah.
Every other time we actually exchange numbers and we're actually in each other's phones, and like, it's a better thing. And I send a message like, hey, this is my phone number or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, business cards to me are another thing that's completely outdated and dead.
100%. I'm trying to get more involved in, like, the chamber and that stuff around the community. It was shocking. Jordan, he mostly does that for our team here, but I went with him to the last one. He's like, did you grab business cards? Like, oh no, I never take business cards. And he's like, you need business cards because it's a big thing with the chamber. You got to give every booth like your business card. And I'm like, there's got to be a more efficient way. Because I just throw away my business. Like,
and that's the thing, is it goes in the garbage can.
It goes in the garbage. Yeah. So it's like just a waste of money. It's like, could we scan a QR code? They can get our info. Like, it'd be way more efficient for them, because what are they going to go back and do? Like, input all of these business cards into their system?
Well, you can get a list of everyone in the chamber and just send them an email with your contact info.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't understand what the principle is. I just did it because everybody else is doing it. But I'm like, I've never once, not ever once, if it's somebody really important, I put their contact info in it. But like, if somebody gives me a business card, it's almost like stresses me out. I'm like, I need to keep this. And I just let it lay it somewhere, and then I forget about it.
Or if you're at a convention of any kind and they give it to you, just put it in your little goodie bag. And the goodie bag gets thrown away.
100%. So no, I agree. I think there's so many ways that like people are just holding on to what they know because it's comfortable. And you got to be willing to like pivot and go explore new ways to do things and new technologies if you want to get to the certain levels that most people want to get to. Yeah. So I really admire what you've done with your real estate journey, with your pick me up journey, and your willingness to like pivot and stuff. Cause I'm such a big proponent of look at where do you want to go? And like, are you in the right vehicle to get you there? I'm similar to you. I'm like, real estate isn't going to get me to where I want to be. It's something that I'll probably hold on to. That brought in Devin. He's kind of being more of the team leader. Like eventually I want to step even more and more away from this. And if it continues to run, great. But like there's bigger opportunities than just selling houses. And really I looked at it as like, who do I know that's running a team that's like living the life or at the level that I want to get to? Like, I don't really think there's anybody. And then I talked to big team leaders that are selling 800-900 homes a year. And I look at them and it's like, the margins are still really slim at that level.
And they're working crazy amount.
Yeah. And it's like, they're doing other things that are actually making them way more money than their 800 transaction team.
Well, and that's the cool part too. If you have a team that's doing 800 transactions, your reach as a person and the amount of people you know is so broad.
Yep.
That, I mean, there's more opportunities if you keep your eyes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the route where we're at now is like, cool. We have a team that can do 200 transactions plus a year, 250 to 300. And what can we now utilize that machine for?
Yeah.
That could actually be a bigger benefit to us.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's just cool to see that. And I think one thing that we've kind of learned now is anything that you can sell. Have you done anything? Do you guys sell anything online with Pick Me Up?
We have an entire merch store. Okay. But not really outside of that. We've discussed quite a few different options. We're working on one that'll be pretty cool, but it won't be ready till the end of the year.
Okay.
But
e-commerce is just kind of like blown my mind as far as what you can generate just because your market is so much bigger.
Yeah. It's true.
When you can market to like, I've come to the realization like our team can only get so big here. There's only like 4,500 transactions here locally. Like how much of those can we absorb versus like you sell a product online, you have millions of customers that you can try to capture.
No, it's an entirely different approach to everything. And you even look at some of these just Amazon resellers where they're buying in bulk from Alibaba and reselling and what have you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, they're selling so much stuff, or they get that first, something starts going viral and they're the first ones with a cool product and they sell 1 million sweatshirts. Mm-hmm. The pickle sweatshirt. I don't even know how many of those got sold. So many.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that somebody that spent a few minutes designing that sweatshirt and sending it out is going to make an absolutely insane amount because of that reach, especially if they got like some influencer with a big following to watch it. So I started trying to go the influencer route at one point. You remember seeing those videos in the mornings I was doing in my truck?
Yeah.
You ever see those? So I was doing that, and then somebody catfished somebody with my pictures of me and my kids.
Oh,
so I just kind of stopped. Mm. I was up to 14,000 something followers.
Wow.
Pretty good interactions at one point. But that happened, and it was about the time that I realized real estate wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So I feel like preaching about real estate all the time maybe isn't as true.
Yeah.
You know? But real estate's a great career.
Yeah.
There's so many great ways to make money in real estate.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed learning commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's a different animal for sure.
It is fascinating because even the valuation principles, and that's been one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around. So there's been a few times I've gone to like get into a building and they said no, they want X amount per square foot. Let's say it's $45 a foot. And I'm like, okay, no. Maybe Dunkin' Donuts, if they decide they want to come into Idaho Falls or into Chubbuck, will do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay whatever your ridiculous price is. I will pay you this. And commercial people don't care like residential people do. Mm-hmm. Because the commercial person, they're like, well, I'm locking you into a 5 or a 7-year lease with a couple 5-year options with only a few % increase each year. I'm going to hurt my building based on the cap rate for the next
Correct.
17 years by taking your offer. So they look at things at such a bigger scale as opposed to the landlord with 12 properties. Like, well, I'm losing money on it now, so let's just get somebody in there. And it's just such a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate it, but I also hate it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You're absolutely right. Cause when I first got into like trying to lease an office space and like same thing, they wanted way more. And I'm like, they're not going to get that. And it sat vacant for like a year plus. And I'm like, these idiots are losing out on this. And I'm like, and then it clicked. I'm like, oh, I get it. If he leases this to me, he can't leverage that asset to go get a line of credit, to get more debt, whatever. So he doesn't care if he loses money for a year, as long as he can get somebody in that gives him a higher valuation on his building.
Yep.
That losing, let's say, 20 grand that year, but getting a higher lease in like 2 years might make him $1 million more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it'll increase that rate.
It's such a crazy swing.
It is
on that. And when you start learning how the really, really wealthy operate and leverage debt and assets and lines of credit, and then you start to like, this is a game.
Well, so like here's a fascinating one. Dutch Bros here on Sunnyside.
Yeah.
And the Starbucks that's not even completed yet in Rexburg off that first exit.
Okay.
They're both listed. I don't know if this one sold. It hadn't last time I had checked. So they came in, bought that land. I don't know how much. I'm going to guess on costs here. Probably $300,000 for the lot. Built it for no more than $700,000. It's a small building.
Yeah.
So let's just say they're $1 million into that project, but they're a big enough company that the lease is safe and they're a popular enough business that the building that they built for $1 million, they're selling for $3 million. The Starbucks up there I just saw get listed at $3,056,000 at a 5.5 cap. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're going to have bought that land that nobody's wanted forever. And you're going to build a building and be, again, $1 million in. You're going to triple your money with your own business by building it. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Commercials in it. Commercials weird. I like it.
It's the same thing with like why I've looked at like businesses now too, because it's like building a business that are like purchasing a business that you can increase revenue. It's like adding, let's say a business is doing, let's just say $1 million, and let's say you're somebody like a venture capital is willing to pay like a 4 multiple on it, mm-hmm. But you can go in and you can get that $1 million to like $1.5 million, and now they're paying a 4 multiple on it. Mm-hmm. It's like that swing is so significant.
Oh, and what's even more crazy is when there's let's see, what's the name of the business? I don't know. I know Duns and Bradstreet does a study. There's a company that does a study. My taxes, Cooper Norman does my taxes, and he pulled up these reports. So they do them every single year, and they base what a values factor is based on sales, right? And so there's a couple different ways where it's like 86% of total gross sales, or it's a factor of net income, or whatever. There's a bunch of different valuation models. But as you increase your sales, the factor increases as well. So you're not only increasing that, it actually multiplies the gain. So there's a chance you buy a business that's profiting $1 million a year, and it's doing $6 million in business, and you get it up to $10 million in business with $2 million in profit. You got a better thing there. But when you get up to that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a little bit higher, you're separating from the tiny businesses. Yep. A lot of times those factors go up to 12, 13.
Yep.
So it's like, instead of now making your 4 multiple on your $1 million and making $4 million, you're going to make 12 times $2 million and make 24 for an extra 18 months of effort.
Yeah.
And it's almost monopoly money.
Yeah. Because venture cap, when you start buying businesses, it's like the little gap of venture capital won't touch this business because they're too small. Mm-hmm. But if you can purchase that business, get them up to the threshold, it's like, I think like 2.5 million or something revenue, then venture capital will look at it. And you're right. Your multiple goes from like 4 to 10. And it's like such a big swing. So that's been so fascinating to me. It's like how a lot of these people have basically just like manipulated their net worth. I guess that's not a good way to put it, but like you're just taking something and then on paper showing that it's worth more, and then somebody's willing to pay for it. It's just so different than real estate.
It is.
Where like
it's much less rigid.
Yeah. It's like real estate is like you buy this asset and it appreciates and you got cash flow and that's it. you can do value add to real estate, but it's not the same kind of swing.
No.
It's way different.
I mean, let's say you buy this crappy commercial building and you get it for pennies because it sucks and has rats in it. So you get it for $200,000. You bought it just the right time. The person was super sad and they just needed some money.
Yeah.
200 grand. And it's 500 grand already before you do anything. Then you put 500 grand into it. You make that building $1 million. And it only took you 2 years. You're out the $500,000 to do it. All of the overhead and the oversight.
Yep.
And you're still only going to make that 400 grand.
Yep.
It's just not the same. And then you're going to pay some of that to a realtor and you were paying taxes the whole time. Like, it makes more sense learning more things that you get your millions with real estate and your billions with business.
Yeah. And then you invest, like what I've learned is it's real estate. I think real estate kept the most millionaires, but like a lot of people didn't just become millionaires through real estate. Some did, but a lot of people made money doing like running a business or doing something that they got a lot of income, and then they park it in real estate. And then that real estate appreciates over 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what makes them millions or like gets them to that millionaire point. But it's real estate's a good place to store wealth.
It is.
And it's a good place to generate initial wealth too, like flipping houses and doing that stuff. Yeah. You want like active income.
Well, and the tax write-offs, the depreciation is what saves you.
If you have income to offset, like,
yeah,
you know, and I think the only thing, the reason I'm getting at that is there's a lot of people that like aren't making really good money, but are trying to like buy houses with no money down and like subject to deals. And it's like that cash flows $200 a month, but you're not really making any money. You don't really have any money to like fix any CapEx expenses that come up on that property. Like that's not the way to go.
No,
like figure out how to make money and then learn how to leverage that money into real estate and like buy the right real estate and do that. But don't think that real estate, like just buying and owning properties that don't cash flow are going to get you to where you want to be. I think it's maybe for some people it works, but I think it's a very risky game to try to play.
It is. So let me expand that one step further to don't listen to the talking heads on social media.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 guys I know, 2 guys and a lady that all went pretty big in on the getting Airbnbs, renting the property, furnishing them. They did really well for 2 years, and they leveraged and leveraged and leveraged and leveraged. And then Airbnb dropped 36%. And now they're all screwed. They're going to end up with a whole lot of furniture, crazy payments on the furniture, and nothing to do with it.
Yep.
And all because they saw it and then somebody referred it to somebody else. And it's like, but I'm all for growth and leverage, but there's a point where you're doing too much of that.
100%.
That's what happened to the builders in 2008. Like you just blindly growing off of leverage is a horrible plan.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like people try to blow up one thing too fast. Like the Airbnb thing was like not the right way of like buying a property that makes sense. When I buy a property, it's like, even if I'm going to Airbnb it, it's got to make sense as a long-term rental.
Yeah.
Because that is the default. It might have to get turned into a long-term rental, worst case. But if you're just going out there running a property on Airbnb numbers and not predicting that Airbnb is going to slow down at all, like that is a bad business model. And then the worst part is like, if you don't even own the building and you're just like, you're not taking advantage of any like depreciation or anything, you're just signing a lease for X amount of years and then buying all this furniture for it and you don't even own the building. It's like, you're just putting yourself in an even more risky and worse situation.
Yeah.
And so I think you're absolutely right. I think there's so many gurus out there spitting out advice that have really never done anything. And it's so hard to prove whether or not somebody's done something.
They live in LA and that's a great plan there. And it's
Correct.
a horrible plan in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Correct.
And it's not cut and paste.
Yeah. Are you part of do you have a coach, business coach?
No.
Are you part of any masterminds?
No.
Why?
In real estate, I've felt coaches aren't helpful. Pretty strong opinion on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few great ones. I'm sure they've helped some people, but of the quite a few agents I've seen do a coach, they just handed them money and they just reminded them to do things they were supposed to be doing themselves.
Yeah.
If they weren't doing those things themselves anyway, I don't know why paying somebody else $2,500 a month to stress yourself out that now you have a new bill is going to make you do those things.
Yep.
I think mastermind groups can be super helpful. That's the reason I'm excited for the Harvard class is I'm excited to go collaborate with other like people. But I think I've just become jaded too with social media because a lot of people call themselves gurus. And unfortunately, it's almost a hot button word just to say entrepreneur now because everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They have a camera and they think they're a photographer.
Yeah.
They have a
We
computer.
know all about that, right?
And it's just different because they don't have that skill set. They wouldn't even be able to tell you what plugged into what.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even be able to tell you how to run it. And so a lot of these coaches and gurus and stuff and other people that come into masterminds, it's like, do you have much to offer? Do I have anything to offer to you? Do we even have a similar ground enough that we're going to speak the same language and learn from each other?
Yeah.
I think mastermind groups can be extremely helpful and beneficial. I think networking groups can be wonderful. Mm-hmm. Just hasn't been something I've done much of.
I've struggled to find one that's really productive here locally. And that's kind of what's like, it's the only reason I'm a part of like bigger mastermind coaching groups that I do have to pay thousands of dollars to be a part of, that I go to because it's like they are more productive. And I wish I think we've got some really great business people in our local area, but there's not a whole lot of collaboration and masterminding and like coming together to converse about things.
Yeah.
I feel like our market's really interesting. Real estate for sure is super cutthroat and nobody wants to collaborate. But it's interesting, even like business outside of that, you just don't see a lot of people coming together and like collaborating. And I don't know what it is, but I'd love to change that at some point, and like put together a good group of people that can connect and learn from each other, and share lessons.
And there definitely is room for that. I think another reason we've been a bit not wanting to do a lot of those kinds of things in general, super open to the idea though, and I think it's a needed thing, is we've had so many people steal and copy our information as pick-me-up. Mm-hmm. We had one company go as far as to hire one of my managers, have them keep working for me 3 months, copy every single thing I have, and then start a competing business in my own market. Wow. And then say it was their own idea.
Okay. Yeah, that would sway things for sure.
That kind of thing has happened to me now like 4 times.
Yeah.
And so I'm just a bit jaded on sharing data.
Yeah.
But I tend to overshare. So that's also changed. We've been better at not sharing all of the information, you know.
Yeah.
But
were any of those companies successful?
2 are dead. And the thing is, they weren't even close enough. We didn't kill.
And ways we do things, and like people will try to just copy everything we do content wise. People will just copy what we do content wise. Yeah. But what I've learned is like they didn't come up with the original idea or the original system or process. So when it breaks, they're also not going to like know what to do. Yeah. They're not going to learn how to pivot. And so most of the time, the people that are just trying to rip off and duplicate, they'll have a short stint because
that's a great point.
They weren't the person that had the initial ideas, and so they're not going to innovate like you're going to innovate, and they're not you. So like they can copy you to a certain extent, but they don't know like how are they going to create the culture? Like the culture is probably Amy. They don't have Amy.
Yeah.
And so like that's what I've kind of learned. My wife gets really like upset. People like will literally copy her like website or landing page that we use to market like townhome developments, word for word. Just change out like their name. Yeah. And it like gets her so frustrated. But I'm like, cool, they can run with that and it'll work for a little bit, but like we'll do something else and we'll innovate. And then they'll have to they're always going to be a step behind us. And so it's okay. Like I've tried to help her, coach her through that, but that's what I've just realized.
It's a hard one.
It is. It's super hard, but most of the time I haven't seen one that's been really successful. I haven't seen anybody get copied that like really kind of blew up.
Yeah.
You know?
Or they had their short stint.
Yeah.
They did for a minute because they were the new shiny thing, but then the proof's in the pudding over time.
Yeah. Because what are they going to like the market, the COVID happens and it's like, you're going to do something, but like, how are they going to see what you're doing now when they're trying to run their own thing and they're going to have to figure out their own problems, you know? So now I think it's hard in your business because I think you're similar to real estate. Like the barrier to entry is kind of relatively low. Yeah. It's not super cost intensive. Yeah. And so people get in thinking like, I could run a soda shop, but they don't know all the intricacies of running a soda shop.
No, and the bummer is a lot of the small ones that started like the owner is in there making the drinks because the margins are too tight for them to be able to pay an employee. And it's like, I've had a few people call like, hey, like I want to start one. It's like, I would really recommend against it. I'm not trying to be like a jerk, but like the only reason like we do well is because we have so many, we've leveraged our size for pricing.
Yeah.
But COVID kind of killed our margins. They never believe you. They think you're just trying to get them not to, and then they do it
100%.
anyway, and then it doesn't go the way they expected. But
I tell that to people that want to run a team too. Like, it's not all of a sudden, oh no, you're making tons of. I'm like, guys, the margins are like, you don't understand what goes in this. And then they leave, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know there's
they don't follow up with the Zillow lead, and you're like, why the hell did you not call them? They wanted a house. Well, I was doing this. No, why the hell didn't you call them? That doesn't matter. You should just get on phone.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we'll just get the next one. It's like, you realize that just cost us an opportunity that cost $800. And
Yep.
that was your opportunity.
Yeah. They don't know until they start paying for it themselves.
Dude,
And
I
they
was burning
realize.
so much money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're spending more than I even was, because I pretty quickly, people, they don't appreciate it if they don't pay for it, and they don't follow up if they're not paying for it and they don't care.
Yep.
And then where realtors are all 1099s, if you're like, why didn't you call that lead? They're like, well, it's my business. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you.
It's so true.
You were in here last week saying you didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And then you didn't answer your dang phone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
And for the record, almost all my agents were wonderful, and I loved working with them.
Yeah.
There's just some of those things where it's just beating your head against a wall, and it was hard.
Yeah.
But
No, I'm with you. You know all the intricacies of running a team brokerage and how challenging it can be. It's just astonishing that the lack. I think it's a lack. We try to be really transparent with our team. Like, here's our cost. Here's what we spent on Zillow last year. This is why our splits are this way. When you don't answer a phone call, it still costs me. Right now, some zip codes, connections, $1,200
wow.
for like one guaranteed connection. And so it's like the cost is outrageous. And it's like, you guys, if you want these opportunities, you have to treat them right.
Yeah.
Or else we're just not going to get them. Because
Yeah.
you can't. It like literally does not pencil.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting time because everybody's starving for business.
Yeah.
That's driven the cost up for like all lead flow, Google ads, Facebook ads,
Well, and
everything.
Kind of like you said before, it's going to be a stint because they're going to run out of money.
Correct.
And then the prices will drop down again.
100%. So it's like, who can hold their breath
Yeah.
and ride it out?
Well, and it's an election year, so we'll see rates drop all the way from now until November. I bet you they bottom all the way back down at 5.
Yeah, I would love
Maybe
that.
high 4s. And then I don't know who's going to win. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I was wrong last time, so we'll see what happens.
I've stopped, like, I don't really follow it anymore.
And the bummer
I
is it's directly tied to the industry and how it's going to happen,
100%.
which is a bummer.
Yeah. But it consumed too much of my attention and I can't control it.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, just it's going to play out it's going to play out, and I'm just going to focus on what we're doing because that's all I can do. And
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah, I hate not having focusing on things that I can't control drives me nuts. So, but all right. Well, that was a pretty long podcast. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I kept it probably later than you were expecting, but
all good.
before we break out, is there anything any piece of advice that you would give to a young entrepreneur or even somebody that's looking for a career shift that wants to get into running a business? Any piece of advice that you'd share with them that you wish you would have known at a younger age?
There's so many. There's so many pieces of advice. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to just start. Start small. Jim Collins again, bullets before cannonballs. Try it first before you commit everything to one thing. That was something that I wasn't really good at the beginning of running the group. I started with cannonballs instead of starting with bullets, and then it was just expensive mistakes instead of little mistakes.
Yeah.
Hold your breath. Like, I also don't agree with the narrative that you have to grind constantly. You're going to burn out and it won't be sustainable. That's why there's nobody in the gym the third week in January.
Yeah.
Kind of another, it's just a little bit funny thing I look at every single year is a lot of people do, I don't want to drink soda or energy drinks or whatever at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. And I just wait until I see a sales spike, and that's the day everyone gave up on their resolution.
Yeah.
And this year it was the 14th.
Really?
Of January. Last year it was the 12th. And so it's really interesting to watch that, but it's because when you try to do anything and you try to cold turkey transition from one thing, whether it's a career or it's working out or it's a resolution or it's a relationship tendency or it's anything, and you try to 100% change something, like you're going to more than likely experience burnout. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. But incremental change and bolts for cannonballs driving the decisions to make those changes and exactly how you're transitioning is what's going to be sustainable. And like we talked about systems, like sustainable, consistent is what you want.
Yeah.
Not, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 and burn out.
Yeah. You don't want the hockey stick growth.
Yeah.
You want the just consistent growth. Because if you're willing to hold your breath and over time, you're more likely to get to the goal that you want to get to versus just trying to go 0 to 100 miles an hour. Things are going to break.
Yeah.
And so, but we're such a instant gratification economy that like people don't want to wait 10 years to get to that level.
Yeah.
They want to do what Zach did in, this year, open 13 stores.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't, it's not the way to do it. And I think, the way Amazon, like they're a great company. They've provided so much for the economy, but it's like, they've created this like just instant, you can go on and buy anything. And now everybody just expects things to happen so quickly.
Yeah.
That's just not the way business works.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's not the way sustainable change works.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's not just business. It's health, fitness, like all that stuff has to be incremental changes that you can make last over time.
Yep.
So that's a great piece of advice. I appreciate you sharing that. Where can people find you guys? Are you guys on social media?
Oh yeah, we're all over
Just pick me up.
Yeah, at Pick Me Up Drinks.
Okay.
Is the handle on most of the stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you haven't checked it, they've got how many stores here in Idaho Falls?
In Idaho Falls only, there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 stores here.
Yeah, so and then Shelley Rigby.
Okay, Shelley Rigby and Pokey.
1 in Pokey, 1 in Chubbuck, 1 in Blackfoot, 1 in Rexburg, and then Hurricane, Utah, and then on Addison and on Cheney and Twin Falls.
Wow. So anywhere in Southeast Idaho, plus Hurricane, Utah, and Twin Falls. If you guys haven't, definitely go check Pick Me Up. I'm sure everybody's heard of you guys by now and has tried you. But if you haven't, definitely go try them out. And I want to thank you, Zach, for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for inviting me to come do your show with you.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to reach out and maybe get Amy on here too.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to hear her side of the story with running the business.
Yeah. She'll have much better insights on culture. She's so good at it.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you. And it's been really cool to watch your guys' journey and your success.
I've enjoyed watching your brokerage grow.
Thank you.
I can feel through some of the videos, like I remember doing that and it was great, or it's almost triggering every once in a while.
I know that feeling. I know what he's going through. Yeah, no, it's been fun. But I'd love to connect more with you on kind of your journey and stuff. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, until next time, we'll catch you guys later.
Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger and start taking some of the blame. Let me put you on game. Control your emotions, most of the time it's really not worth it. Don't be ashamed and beat yourself up for not being perfect.